Welcome back. You are listening to Nate the Hate on YouTube, and today's episode is going to differ from the usual long-form podcast episodes with MVG, as MVG was unavailable to record a predictions episode with us, and due to that reason, we're going to forego the Streamlabs questions, and we will resume those at the end of the upcoming episode where we will react and give our thoughts on the Xbox Showcase in just a couple of days after the showcase airs. So you can still support the channel with our Streamlabs link in the description below, and we'll answer the questions at the end of the upcoming episode. But today's episode, I want to give some of my personal predictions and expectations around the Xbox Showcase, which is going to air in just a couple of days on Sunday, June 11th. And I want to start with the third parties, because I feel as though the show is predominantly going to be focused on Microsoft's own studio output. And while the third parties will have a meaningful role in the show itself, the third parties are a bit more complicated to really give accurate predictions on and thoughts, because with so many of the studios participating in their own events around, the Xbox Showcase, be it before or immediately after, it's hard to know what games they will hold for their own presentations as opposed to participating in the Xbox Showcase. But as we know, Atlas has a couple of announcements at the Xbox Showcase, and these titles had unfortunately leaked a little earlier via the Atlas West Instagram and social media channels, where Persona 3 Reload and Persona 5 Tactica were leaked on the Atlas channel, and these two titles are coming to Game Pass. And the leak themselves don't really hurt the Xbox Showcase that much, while they are meaningful announcements and definitely a fantastic get for Game Pass. I don't think they provided the show that much in terms of positive energy. I don't think people are going to be that surprised by it, but it is unfortunate to see them leak in such lackluster fashion, I guess is how I would phrase it. Now, from other third parties, I think Capcom shows up, gives us a quick reminder about Exoprimal coming to Game Pass. I think they're going to kind of pound that and beat that into our heads as often as they can over the duration of the coming week. We start at Summer Games Fest, we will likely see it at the Xbox Showcase, and I wouldn't be surprised that they show it once again at the Capcom event itself, just to drive home the point that Exoprimal is coming out later this summer. It's on Game Pass, and they really want people to check it out. We have the Street Fighter crossover with Exoprimal coming out later this year. Whether or not that sparks any interest in the game remains to be seen, but it's definitely something to make a note of. Now, other Capcom announcements that I think have some percentage of possibility would include a Dead Rising reboot. When you think of Dead Rising, you think of Xbox. Dead Rising started on the Xbox 360. Dead Rising 3 was a launch game for the Xbox One, and it's been a long time since we've had a good Dead Rising game. Now feels as though it's the right time, if I'm Capcom, to maybe reboot the franchise. And if I'm Microsoft, I want to have that game at my showcase. Capcom has played extremely friendly with Sony when it comes to the Resident Evil remakes and other titles like Pragmata, which has gone missing. But a title like Dead Rising is more Western focused. It has that pedigree and background of being on the Xbox. So if I'm Microsoft, I'm making a play on that type of game. And maybe this is the proper time and venue to announce that Dead Rising is coming back with a rebooted take or a remake, however you want to phrase it. And I would love to see that at this particular Xbox Showcase. Now, other third parties, it's a lot harder to give any expectations of what we could see. Could Bandai Namco show up with something for Elden Ring? Maybe it would be fantastic. Could Sega show up with something like Jet Set Radio? Could be, but I feel as though that's maybe something that's more in line for the Tokyo Game Show. Yakuza 8, I'd say that's a little too close to the Summer Game Fest trailer drop for Like a Dragon that's coming out later this year. So Yakuza 8 feels as though that's something maybe later this year at a different venue, maybe something like the Game Awards. Now, one company I think could show up at the Xbox Showcase is Square Enix, and I think they could show up in a very meaningful way in terms of Game Pass support. When you've looked at the history of Square Enix on the Xbox, they have actually played quite friendly with the system. I know there's been a lot of talk from some media outlets and personalities that the Xbox and Square Enix have an issue with each other, mostly citing games like Final Fantasy Pixel Remasters, a small game that is fairly inconsequential. But when you really look at what Square Enix has given the Xbox, Final Fantasy VII through Final Fantasy XIII on Game Pass, Octopath Traveler, Dragon Quest, all the meaningful franchises have had representation on the system. As long as the title is multi-platform, it has typically released on Xbox as well as Switch and PlayStation. Octopath Traveler 2 is one of those exceptions to the rule right now, but there's nothing to indicate that they have any issue, and I think Square Enix is going to show up at the Xbox Showcase with a number of meaningful and cool Game Pass announcements. Now, this could be something as simple as Harvestella, which is currently a Nintendo Switch exclusive, but feels as though one of those titles that's going to be just timed exclusive for roughly a year, and that window is quickly meeting its expiration date. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Harvestella announced for PlayStation and Xbox, either at this showcase or even in the coming weeks. But I think other titles like the Saga games, maybe Mana type of games, come to Xbox and Game Pass in the near future. And I think this showcase could be potentially the venue that those titles are announced. They're small, they're not necessarily hype-inducing, but it shows Xbox is trying to create an audience in all of the world markets by offering a variety of software. This is an area that they have lacked, but they have actively shown that they're seeking out Japanese software, be it Rune Factory, the Persona games. So now if you start to include some of those lesser known, smaller Square Enix franchises in Game Pass and just your general software library, that really shows that you're making an effort. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see that at this showcase, given Xbox's large commitment to attracting Japanese-style games on their platform. So that's something I am predicting happens at the showcase. And beyond that, in terms of third-party and indies, it's anyone's guess. Maybe we get a new trailer for Hollow Knight Silksong, which was delayed just a few weeks ago. And we'll see a number of other indie and third-party Game Pass, acquisition and deals made. But I'm not anticipating anything too major in that sector. I think this showcase is largely going to focus on the Xbox and Microsoft's own studio output, and that's exactly what they should be doing. Now, when it comes to Microsoft's own studio output, a lot of people are going to hope to see a new look at Perfect Dark or maybe a look at Rare's Everwild, but those are two titles I would say have a almost guaranteed 0% chance of showing up at this particular showcase. Those games are something that's better held for the future, maybe 2024, depending on when the games are actually releasing on the platform. But Microsoft has more pressing issues to address. They have a pipeline of announced games that lack release dates or just meaningful updates on titles announced 2, even 3 years ago, and now is the time that Microsoft has to address those games. In a large part, this showcase is now or never for the Xbox. Some outlets have said Starfield is, that game for the Xbox. It makes or breaks the generation. And I partially agree with that in essence, but I think it has to be used in tandem with the showcase. If this showcase somehow disappoints in terms of Microsoft's own output, then it doesn't matter how good Starfield is. Starfield is just going to be that one good game, and then we're left waiting for the next big thing. This showcase has to show us that Microsoft can and will deliver quality first-party efforts from the end of this year and beyond. This year started off fairly strong with Hi-Fi Rush. Unfortunately, it hit a somewhat significant speed bump when Redfall underperformed in terms of reception. Now is the time to say, that's behind us, we're looking to the future, and the future is bright. And how they can do that is by kind of just highlighting everything that they have in store. Strong single-player experiences. Doing the contrast of what we saw from Sony just a few weeks ago, where Sony showed CG trailers and played a very conservative role in terms of what their studios are going to output in 2023, 2024, and beyond, Microsoft has to be aggressive. They have to show how the second half of this year they have quality releases, but that's also going to carry over into 2024, 2025, and maybe even beyond that. That's what the showcase has to be for Microsoft. They have to deliver here and now. This has to be the strongest showcase that they have had in a decade. And I think they're going to deliver on that. They're going to deliver on the promise that they made to us back in 2019 when they first introduced the Xbox Series X with Hellblade 2 at the Game Awards. And Hellblade 2, I think, is going to be one of the headliners of the Xbox Showcase in just a few days. I think we get Hellblade 2 gameplay with a release window of either holiday 2023 or early 2024. I feel as though there's kind of a coin flip at the moment. If I'm Microsoft, I want the game out this holiday, but if Ninja Theory needs a few more months of polishing, I give it to them. Because when you look at the holiday lineup alone, just with Starfield in September, that's fairly strong. But then you add in Forza, which will come out in October, and that's 2 back-to-back releases that really signify that you have confidence in what you're bringing to market. Having Hellblade in November would just be a trifecta of awesome. But if you need to take a few more months to perfect what Hellblade 2 is going to be, by all means take it. And then you're going to have titles like Hi-Fi Rush, which just seem primed for DLC and an expansion. We did see a leak that indicated some new achievements, so I wouldn't be surprised if following the showcase we have a shadow drop of a DLC or an expansion pass. If it's not a shadow drop, I could see it coming out a little later this summer. Then you have titles like Fallout 4, which have been promised to get a next-gen patch. We haven't heard much about that. This should be the showcase that we finally get some details on that. Very quick mention, maybe even sizzle reel type of thing, and boom, available later today. But then we just have a long list of games that Microsoft really has to give an update on. You have the games as a service, or the live service games with Halo Infinite, where it's going to go into a new season. You have Grounded, Sea of Thieves, all things that should get a quick update about the new content coming to them, but nothing that you want to focus too much time on. Now, if the Halo Battle Royale mode is ready to be shown, this is the venue to do it. Get people intrigued about what is to come, how Halo's going to evolve and change. And think about that word, evolve. Halo Combat Evolved changed the home first-person shooter forever. If Halo can change the Battle Royale, it would be a very interesting thing. But we'll see if Certain Affinity is ready to show what they have planned in terms of that. And then you have titles like Avowed. We haven't seen Avowed since the initial CG trailer that really didn't tell us much about the game. And I expect that we're going to see Avowed make an appearance at the showcase. What type of appearance we're going to see, that's hard to say, but I think we're going to get a tone-setting, in-engine demonstration that's going to allow us to see how it's going to differentiate itself from titles like The Outer World or even The Elder Scrolls. Show us some unique mechanics, something better than that CG trailer had showed us of just some magic skeletons and medieval, cavern dwelling. Show us how this game is going to redefine its genre. And I think it's going to be dated with just a generic 2024 at the end of the trailer. And then they're going to follow up with Fable, another in-engine demonstration that's going to set the tone and direction of the game. When we saw Fable with the CG trailer, it didn't tell us really anything beyond that we're going to return to Albion. But we have to wonder, is it going to retain that British humor of the original trilogy? Or is it going to go for a different direction? Is it going to be more mature? Are we going to go with a little more adult setting? Or is it still going to have that odd humor of kicking chickens and farting to attract a mate? That's what this trailer really has to demonstrate. Is it going to be a different tone than what we know Fable to be? Or is it going to stick to what those series had always been about? This is going to be a really big moment for Microsoft. If you can return Fable to its former glory and make it a franchise that people care about again, now is the time to do it, and you have to deliver with a trailer that's going to get that point across. Microsoft has said several times now that they've been excited and they want to show Fable. Here it is. Deliver on the promise. Make us excited for the franchise again. Have it redefine its genre. Now, beyond Fable, we also have titles like Indiana Jones, which it was announced we didn't even get a trailer for it. It was just a very quick announcement, and the game is further along in development than some people may realize. And with the film having coming out earlier this year, even though it was to a very subpar media reception, there's still excitement around that franchise. So now feels as though it is the proper time to give that in-engine demonstration of what Indiana Jones is going to be. Show us the direction you're going to take the game, and then maybe you even go as far as showing what other titles Machine Gun Games is working on. If Wolfenstein 3 is in development, just give us a quick in-engine announcement. Doesn't have to be anything too meaningful beyond just some run-and gunning with a logo popping up and a vague 2025 release window, if that's in fact when the game could come out. That's enough to get people excited about the brand, and that's what the showcase has to be about, that excitement. You're trying to sell the Xbox after really 2.5 years of just, I don't want to say mediocrity, because it hasn't been that bad, but it's definitely been lukewarm. And one way you can generate a lot of hype is by announcing and showing an in-engine demonstration of Gears of War 6 running on Unreal Engine 5. The Coalition has been in the news due to some game cancellations and the possibility of a little bit of unrest at the studio. Silence all of that and show us Gears of War 6. We've seen what the Coalition can do with Unreal Engine 5 as they assisted with the Matrix demo. Now, if they can show us Gears 6 with similar visual fidelity, it's going to excite people. Even if the game doesn't come out till 2025 or even 2026, that's okay. You want to get people excited about the Xbox brand, and that's the type of title that will do it. If you can show a Gears title that's going dark with that more horror style vibe, that's going to excite people again for the series. Gears 4 and 5 are quality games in their own right. But go back to the vibe that Gears of War 1 had set for the series. There's a reason Gears of War 1 is held to such high esteem. And, as we talked about earlier this year, if there's a Gears of War collection in the works, now is the time to announce it as well. Give people that opportunity to revisit the original trilogy with enhanced graphics, a unified multiplayer, and get people to reinvest themselves in the Gears universe and get excited for what the franchise can be when Gears of War 6 makes a return in 2 or 3 more years. This showcase is all about Xbox setting its sights to the future of not just in 2023, but also in the coming years. Because what Sony has done so well with the PlayStation 5 is that they're able to sell you on the next 2 to 3 years with just a couple of software announcements. When they announced Spider-Man 2 2 years ago, alongside Wolverine, people were excited. They were excited for games coming out in 2023 and 2024 because the trailers got you excited. They didn't have to show gameplay. They were just able to show you promise. What Microsoft has done in the last couple of years is that they showed us the same show time and time again. We saw Halo and Forza. Now we're breaking away from that. Now it's time to show us the games coming out later this year with Starfield, Forza, ideally Hellblade. Then the games in 2024 with Avowed. And then the games beyond that with Fable, Gears of War. Show us what you're building. Show us strong single-player experiences that we can't get on any other platform. If Microsoft is able to deliver that, they could easily have the best showcase of June. And when you just look at the lineup of Hellblade 2, Avowed, Fable, Forza, Starfield, that's a fantastic lineup in and of itself. Now pair that with some strong third-party announcements, maybe another surprise from Microsoft, be it Gear 6 or something maybe we're not predicting or anyone is even anticipating. And you have one hell of a lineup. And you have something the Xbox fans can finally hold on to with excitement. Because it's been a rough couple of years for Xbox fans. And now is the time for Xbox to finally deliver a W and give people something to hold on to and be excited about. So I'm looking forward to the Xbox Showcase. I think Microsoft is going to deliver. And I think this is going to be one of their best showcases that they've had since their inception, dating back to the original Xbox. But let us know your thoughts on the Xbox Showcase and some of your predictions in the comment section below. And we will be back in just a couple of days with our Xbox reactions. And until then, continue to embrace